Shrinking Season 3, Episode 3 Recap. Jeff Daniels makes an appearance and new life begins. Warning: spoilers for Shrinking Episode 3. Episode 3 ahead. Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3 officially introduces Jeff Daniels' character while bringing forth a new life. In the previous episode of this Apple TV dramedy, we saw Jimmy Jason Segel continue to struggle to ask Sophie Kobe Smulders out, fearing moving forward after his wife's death. As he fought himself about this, Jimmy encouraged Louis Brett Goldstein to get back to his life. After confronting his ex, Louis finally took Jimmy's advice. Also, in Shrinking Season 3 Episode 2, we saw Paul Harrison Ford attempt to adapt to his latest Parkinson's symptom hallucinations. Meanwhile, Sean-Luc Tenney took steps to confront his past mistakes, while Gaby Jessica Williams struggled with Jimmy and Alice's Lukita Maxwell friendship with Louis. Finally, there's Brian Michael Urie and Charlie Kevin Kowalka, who were busy preparing for the arrival of their baby with Liz Krista Miller and Ava Claudia Sulewski. This brings us into Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3. Season 3 Episode 3 begins with the long-awaited guest appearance by actor Jeff Daniels, Hez playing Jimmy's father, and it's evident from their dinner together that these two have a complicated history. Though Shrinking hasn't fully dived into the reason for this, the contention between the father-son duo seems to revolve around their definitions of masculinity. Jimmy has never been particularly macho, while Daniel's character is emotionally standoffish and only comes around when there is a vintage car show in town. Though Jimmy's feelings are complicated, Alice has a great relationship with her grandfather. During their dinner in Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3, she prepares to invite him to her graduation, but Jimmy steps in before she has a chance. Alice ultimately backpedals on her invitation to make her father happy. However, after a chat with Paul, she decides not to allow Jimmy to influence her own relationship with her grandpa. Previously on Shrinking, Sean decided that it was time to talk to his ex-girlfriend Marisol about his behavior toward her while he was deployed in Afghanistan. Marisol had broken up with him during that tumultuous time, and Sean had responded terribly. In Season 3 Episode 3, Sean has that long-awaited confrontation with Marisol. She's hugely enthusiastic about seeing Sean again, but she has no interest in talking about the past. Sean is frustrated that Marisol won't let him take responsibility for his behavior. After their chaotic first meeting, he finally pins her down and makes his big apology. Though she hears him out this time, Marisol explains that she doesn't hold it against him. She recognizes that her own choices had been immature and damaging. These characters leave this Shrinking episode with a pretty passionate kiss. Image via Apple TV. Paul has been unable to work as a therapist since he experienced the hallucination in Shrinking Season 3 Episode 1, and this has been rather difficult for him. Paul has always defined himself as a hard worker and a good therapist, and facing the reality that this isn't something he can do forever is challenging. Paul still has some time, thankfully. His hallucination was the result of a bad UTI, and as long as he doesn't experience another one over the course of a week, he can return to work. At the start of Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3, Paul has no interest in even acknowledging that his career must eventually come to an end. However, while talking to Alice, he realizes that this is a reality he will have to prepare for. Paul takes a major step forward by asking Gaby to take over Alice's therapeutic care. Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3 is when Ava finally goes into labor. After a full season of preparation, Brian and Charlie are ready to become fathers. Liz will help out as a nanny from time to time and essentially run everyone's lives, and Ava will continue to be involved in the baby's upbringing and life. However, while at the hospital waiting for the big moment, Brian gets some troubling news. As it turns out, Ava hadn't signed the adoption paperwork, so there was no guarantee that Brian and Charlie would leave the hospital with a baby. It's a devastating moment, but everyone agrees that Ava shouldn't be asked about the contract while in active labor. Patience isn't exactly Brian's style, so he struggles with this choice, especially when Ava comes out and asks if something is bothering him. Still, Brian has a rare moment of selflessness and puts the issue aside. Just after this display of personal growth, he notices the signed adoption contract on Ava's bedside table. It was a lot of fuss about nothing. Image via Apple TV. Pretty much everyone in Shrinking Season 3 Episode 3 tells Jimmy that it's time for him to finally begin dating. He and Sophie had some serious chemistry, but he failed to ask her out in Episode 2. Now, at the hospital, there's a nurse who is clearly attracted to Jimmy. Once again, however, he is too scared to actually make a movie. During a conversation with Liz, Jimmy explains that he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life alone, but he knows all too well the unavoidable fate of every relationship: it has to end. It's a reality that is keeping Jimmy stuck on the edge, unable to take a leap of faith. However, Liz gives him a push, forcing him to ask out the cute nurse. It's not Sophie, but it's a great sign, that Jimmy can finally move forward. The big event of Shrinking Season 3, Episode 3 is the birth of Brian, Charlie, and Ava's baby. With the adoption paperwork signed and the car seat all set up, the couple is free to take their new baby home. Of course, the new arrival must first be passed around between Shrinking's found family. The final shot of this episode sees Paul holding the infant, and though very few words are spoken, it's clear what's happening in the man's mind. Paul has finally accepted that, though he surely has a long way to go, he is entering into the final chapters of his life. Looking down at this baby girl who is just beginning her own life clicks things into place for Paul. It's the perfect bittersweet end to the most powerful episode of Shrinking Season 3 yet.